This is part 2 of the video that I made because I just started going down a rabbit hole and I'm starting to understand why we be getting dirty looks, especially the comments I got on the first video. So let me give a quick little replay of what we learned. Somebody come look at this. Look at this.
Your people came down from the Middle East. You are not native African.
No, not at all.
Ethiopian.
As a matter of fact, we don't have the Negro blood at all. And we migrated from the Semitic type of the Saudi Arabia and Yemen and the countries just away from the Red Sea. And the origin could be said that some people drafted and came to the northern part of Ethiopia. And then they migrated inwards. And time went on, they stayed instead, and then the Hamitic races from the bordering, from the south and from Sudan and things like that, from the countries
But
in
if you,
Africa.
excuse me for interrupting, but if you don't have Negro blood, then this is news to me. The Ethiopians, I would think, wouldn't have any particular feeling about race relations in other parts of Africa.
We don't at all feel any relationship. It's none of our concern. I mean, we just don't care about it. As we don't have the Negro blood, we shouldn't have to worry ourselves. I mean, the color you might, the color of my face is just dark because it's due to the exposure of the sun. And my country is a mountainous country. It's 800 feet above sea level. And it's more or less nearer to the sun than the other countries that lay near the equator.
Sir, you a whole black man with 4C hair. Ooh, child, grab a seatbelt. I was today years old when I learned that Ethiopian people didn't know that they was black. I done redid this video. This is my third time. I'm trying to be as calm and as respectful as possible, as to not incite anything. And I know I'm gonna incite anything anyway with the title. But this is to piggyback off of what I already wrote about. I'm sorry. What I already made a video about in regards to Ethiopians and their identification. They don't, consider themselves black, in my opinion, until you need some type of belonging, where I'm going to put right here the screenshot of what the lady said. She considered herself black once she was getting attacked by the racist white people, but I shall digress. This prime minister that I'm about to read what he said, which gives me perspective. This is a little bit of just me doing a light dive where in 2020, where it says his administration is marked by severe human rights violations, civil conflicts, systematic massacres in the Ethiopia region. And what really stood out to me in this paragraph was how the church had accused him of participating in the plot as well as instigating violence towards the Ethiopian Orthodox Christians. And I'm not even Christian, but that sparked a certain amount of empathy in me, and I'll dive into that later. Probably be a separate homeschool lesson for my son. That's not what this video is about. If I'm gonna keep it all the way gangster with everybody, I'm only doing this video and even diving into this because it's something I never wanted to dive into, because I can see how people look down on African Americans. You can see it in the air. You can see how they look like they want to spit on us, no matter how nice we dress or no matter how articulate we are, no matter how calm we are. It doesn't matter. I didn't care to know why. I didn't care. And even at this point, my feelings is not hurt off of what I'm about to read, but I know I'm probably going to trigger some people off of what I'm about to read in this article. But it's nice to know who your enemies are and their perspective. You have to know how people think about you. Why is you being looked at like that? Because this is how people walking around really think. I'm not saying all Ethiopians is like this. I'm saying I'm just deep diving and you just going on a journey with me, honey. We're just going to read the article and some comments. I'm not even going to give my opinion. I don't even know why you sitting here lying like that. You know you're going to give your opinion. I'm going to try my best not to give my opinion, inshallah, on this article, not too deeply, because I know I'll be offending people. So, Ethiopia Insight is the name of his website. Why did Ethiopia's prime minister blame African Americans for their victimization? African Americans' ongoing struggle for equality should be seen as an inspiring lesson for other subjugated peoples. Abiy Ahmed. See, that's why I looked it up so I could say it appropriately. I know I probably will mispronounce the rest of the stuff in the article, and I apologize. I do not intend to offend anybody with this video. Abiy Ahmed, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, who came to power primarily as a result of the Oromo youth protest movement, known as Hero, has talked about cultural attitudes behind different communities. Relative success twice in the last 2 years by comparing the development of Jewish Americans to the underdevelopment of African Americans. Yes, I'm being sarcastic. Abiy argued that Jews have become prosperous, okay, and powerful Americans by forgetting their past oppression, while blacks have caused their own suffering and underdevelopment by focusing on their past victimization. I mean, perhaps it might have to do with the fact that America's issuing reparations to the Jewish people or ensuring that they get their reparations, but not the black people. I just want to say that. And I probably put it on a screenshot so you can see, but I shall continue. The 2019 Nobel Peace Prize winner asserted that American Jews collectively decided to avoid dwelling on their past mistreatment and look forward to their future achievement. On the contrary, he said, by focusing on their racial oppression and exploitation, and by ignoring their future, African Americans have remained at the bottom of society. I knew y'all be thinking this. I said this over and over again, and it be black Americans be like, that's not true. You can see it in people's faces. They don't. Not every African. I'm not saying that. I'm saying certain people, especially from foreign countries, look at us with disdain. I'm not talking about the ratchets, okay? I'm not talking about the black people who we see popping it on screen, acting crazy, all that. I'm talking about like the ones that's educated, actually doing something for themselves, hardworking business owners. Like they be looking at us like we gum on the bottom of their shoe. And I kept saying, I know they got to be saying this about us behind our back. It has to be. It just doesn't make any sense for it to be any other way. And I shall continue. Presumably to try and encourage Amaro to look forward and not backwards. This is a translation of what I forgot even how to pronounce the man's name while I'm sitting there. Let me go back and see. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Abiy said in Afan Amaro on 30 October 2019 in a town hall meeting, Eastern Amaria. I know I'm mispronouncing that. Following violence earlier that month. Okay, we're going to do that a homeschool lesson. Let's press play while we sitting there doing this. What's this junk saying? Oh, he's speaking a different language. Okay, I'm going to have to translate that another. Oh, there you go right there. Look at me. See, look at Dawn. Okay, 70 to 80 years ago. No, he didn't. I'm trying not to be sarcastic. I'm trying. I'm not going to be able to get through this article. I already know. I'm not going to be. I read it already, but I'm not going to be able to get through it for this video. I'm trying, y'all. 7 to 80 years ago, in the United States, 2 groups of people were discriminated against. The the Jews and the blacks. So that statement in itself is absurd because slavery happened way before 70, 80 years ago. And the slavery, let me lasted for over 400 years. Let's not compare. Now, I'm not taking away what happened to Jewish people in the Holocaust. That was horrible. It was horrific. Let's not compare the timeline because let me do this. The timeline of the Holocaust was 1933 to 1945. And like I said earlier, as you can see right there, the role of the United States in pursuing compensation for a Holocaust victim. So they understand the atrocities that the Jewish people have, been subjected to enough to pursue compensation for these victims. But yet, everybody's seen done got reparations from, I believe that was the Japanese Americans when they were detained in those internment camps. We got right here the Native Americans, but black people, we're no longer in that. We're not in that equation, and that's not what I'm saying in regards to this. I just want to bring this up while I finish his statement, why it doesn't make any sense. The Jews and the blacks. That's what he said. 70, 80 years ago, the United States, two groups of people were discriminated against, the Jews and the blacks. The Jewish people used to be tortured, imprisoned, and denied jobs. Excuse the notification. And denied jobs. The blacks faced the same fate. You see how he putting it on the exact same playing field? You know, the Germans killed the Jews, and many of those who survived fled to America. Israel didn't exist then, and they, Jews, were scattered all over the world. Jews made a decision as a people. They said yesterday we were tortured, oppressed, and discriminated against. Excuse me. If we merely continue to talk about the past, we won't go far enough. We need to have a winning vision so that we will be equipped with better knowledge and wealth than the whites who have been victimizing us and then ruled us. On the other hand, blacks continue to sing and complain about being oppressed and tortured, saying the whites did this and that to us. This day, they, blacks, have not gotten anywhere. What about the other guys, the Jews? The media belongs to them. The banks belong to them. Everything belongs to them. While sitting there in the U.S., they, the Jews, protect and support the small country, Israel. Every policy of the United States, on Arab countries, Middle East, is entirely decided by the Jews because they have so much power. I don't know anybody, let's just go to the pandemic. As soon as they told us to shut down our businesses, they start cutting checks. I don't know anybody who can be assisted in such a bigger way than to be monetarily compensated. Like, are we living? I mean, am I tripping? You have to be compensated. The Jews have been compensated, which they should be for what was done to them. And for him to put us on the same playing field, it's not an argument of how dare you. It's this is a worship. This is a worship. This is somebody who looked at power. It's like a worship of the power of it. Because never mind how they got help to get to that point where they were able to seek refuge. And you see what I'm saying? It's more so he's seeking some type of power in a statement to incite and to also distance himself. That goes back to what I was saying in the initial video. To distance yourself from, quote unquote, the bottom of the barrel. We're considered the bottom of the barrel in attempt to, like, be acceptable to your white counterparts. They don't look at you as equal. Like, that's what I said. And that's why I don't understand these Africans that are commenting on the previous video, because I'm going like, you're not understanding what I'm saying. You're not on the same equal playing field. And I understand it's like, oh, we talk about race too much. Am I tripping? Or has white supremacy not dominated the entire planet? Like, I mean, did South Africa not suffer apartheid? I mean, am I tripping? And these people are talking about this same prime minister, going on him on the comments. I haven't even delved into what the heck he done really did, but it's not looking good, because he's starting wars just like this government right here in America is starting wars, interjecting, helping people, overthrowing government. I can get it, honey. I can do it all day long. That's on the homeschool playlist. That's not what this is about. Let's finish this article. Lord, we 15 minutes in. During the long American system of racial discrimination, the most victimized segments of society. Did I already read this? He's still talking. Were the blacks and the Jews both were tortured and oppressed. Okay, so he said this again. He made a similar comment, which, oh gosh, oh, this is a mess. Look at this, the songs and oh Lord. What did he say? Less than 50 years later, Jews have become prosperous and powerful, while blacks became freed poor. They were granted freedom, free to sing, but unable to get out of poverty. Lord have mercy. So this is funny. What is he talking about? Like, this remind me of, you know what? It was a black man. Hold on. Yeah, this the joint I seen right here.
When I have a child, I want to take them to Africa. You know what I'm saying? I want to take them to the motherland. Let them see that, hey, we're blessed over here. You know, but look at them. They're staying in woods and trees. What? Where? I want to take them to Africa.
So, like, when I seen that video, I was thinking, man, he real ignorant. I'm glad he ain't got no kids. Talking about when he have kids. Like, he really think African people over here living in bushes and trees. And here we go. The prime minister of Ethiopia. Look at this. Less than 50 years later, Jews become prosperous and powerful, while blacks become freed poor. They were granted freedom, free to sing, but unable to get out of poverty. And that was said in June of 2018. He think we over here living in poverty? Well, shoot. The black man, what's his name? Hold on. Look, I can't find that man name. I think it's Alex some. I don't even care what his name is. Is it even worth even figuring out what his name is? I know he's popular on social media, but that content, that was absurd. He said that, and here somebody is in Ethiopia, not only not considering themselves any level of black, any level of Negro, whatever you want to call it, brown, I don't care. They look at us and say, unable to get out of poverty. Lord have mercy, God. Look at this. I read this for myself. That's as far as I can get, y'all, because I don't like triggering myself. Y'all could go ahead and look this up, Lord. Yeah. But there was a comment that stood out to me. And the lady said, thank you for posting this article. I lived in Ethiopia for almost 2 years. And all I've heard, I'm assuming that's what she said, is this guy talk trash and oppress his own people. He is the true oppressor. And at his best, he is a true oppressor at his best, and only oppressors make stupid excuses for those who have been oppressed. But we're able to change the situation. I speak as an African American woman to say he knows zero about our experience. I think she's saying he hasn't done any research on all of our successes, despite all that our African people, I don't know I can't even, what she say? Despite all that our Africa people in America have had to go through? No, I don't think so. Thank you again. This was emotionally exhausting. I'm glad I'm not screaming and hollering like I was in the first video, because that was absurd. Anybody who didn't know what was said in the first video, it was a guy from Ethiopia basically saying that he is only dark because he's like 800 feet above sea level, and that's how the sun make them look. And they go around Robert Hood's barn, him and the lady, and even people in my comments, to pretend as though their objective isn't to mirror what white colonization has done all over the whole world. Like, it's as if, excuse me, that was my uncle calling. It's, and I'm glad he did call because it made me try to figure out how to word this. This is what it's like for us as Black people. It's like you being married to somebody, right? And then you find out what your spouse has been saying about you to your in-laws, what they saying about you behind their back to the neighbors, what they saying about you to, different people. But your spouse be mugging on you, and your spouse, looks at you in disgust, but then they still want to have intimate relations with you. It's kind of like giving mixed signals, and you are not fully aware of what's going on until that mistress come home pregnant. And then it's like, you have to figure it out for yourself. It's narcissism. It's exactly what it is. And regardless of how you want to separate yourself out from Black people, like that lady in the original video, which I'm not posting here. Go to the original video and see. She literally labeled herself as Black, although she has separated herself from Black people. It gives mixed signals. It's like, what are y'all saying about us behind our back? Because I knew, like I said earlier in the video, I knew in my heart, in my soul, that it is being said behind our backs that we is the bottom of the barrel. We are trash. No matter how wonderful we look, no matter how articulate we are, no matter how accomplished we are trash in the eyes of not just racist white people, but other brown people across the world. They view us as trash. And I just needed that confirmation. It's like I just needed that confirmation. I never looked into it because I didn't care to look into it. I did not care. I don't even care about my own other African American people, Black people, how they hold themselves up above other people because they live in nicer areas or mansions or they had drive better car. I don't even care what they think. Why would I care what somebody halfway across the world think about me to the point of I feel bad about myself? I should want to belong to them. I should want. No, I don't. I just needed the understanding. So I see, why do we get looked at like that? I've even had Muslim people who is from that region who look at us like, look at me, like I'm trash. They talk to me like I'm trash. And I'm like, well, I'm being respectful, I'm being nice, and I'm trying to figure out why. Now I understand why. That's all. I just needed to understand. And I think a whole lot of Black people need to know this. Y'all have no idea that these are the conversations that's happening behind closed doors. And that's why you was getting mugged on and all that different kind of stuff. That's why. And I want to end with this. That's why I keep saying y'all ain't nothing but narcissistic supply. Do you actually think that these racist white people and even prejudiced, I shall say, Jewish people that he is praising, you think they're not talking about you when you leave the room? You think they don't look down on you when you walk out the room? Like I said in the first video, you pretend like you don't want to belong to that club because you don't want to seem pathetic in front of all your Black brethren, your brown brethren, your African brethren, your American, whatever. But in actuality, you want to belong to it. You admire it. You look up to it. You want to mimic that ridiculous amount of power and oppression. It's sad. It's narcissism. It's psychopathy and it's narcissism. And to insinuate that we're jealous is ridiculous. Why would I want to mimic that level of desperation to belong to a group you don't freaking belong to? You don't.